Welcome back to band9. In this lesson we are working through ielts speaking part 1 on the topic of hometown at band 9 level. We will brainstorm the material first and then deliver a full set of answers to all 8 questions. First, what part 1 actually is. It lasts roughly 4 to 5 minutes and it opens the interview. The examiner confirms who you are, then asks about familiar topics, normally 3 topic sets of about 4 questions each. Hometown, work or study, and home are the classic openers, and today we take the hometown bank in full. Every part of the test is marked on the same 4 criteria, so part 1 counts exactly as much as part 3. You cannot prepare answers word for word, but you can absolutely prepare material. Here is the shape that every strong part 1 answer follows. Answer: give a direct response in the first few words, with no throat clearing and no repeating the question back. Extend, add the reason, the contrast, or the example that the examiner would otherwise have to ask for. Color: finish with one specific personal detail, because that is where the vocabulary score is won. Aim for 2 to 4 sentences, roughly 15 to 40 words. Now the traps. One-word answers give the examiner nothing to mark. Speeches are the opposite problem. Talking for 90 seconds in part 1 is a fluency issue, not a strength. Memorized chunks are spotted and they suppress your score. Showing off vocabulary that does not fit costs you more than a simple word used correctly. And do not invent facts you cannot support. Hedge instead, because hedging actually sounds more fluent. These are the 8 hometown questions we will answer. Read them once and notice something: they are not random. There is a present tense question, a description question, a change question, a knowledge question, a comparison, and a future question. Each one is quietly asking for a different grammar. Brainstorm 1. Build a fact sheet before you ever open your mouth. 5 things: where it is, what it is known for, 1 vivid physical detail you have actually seen, 1 way it has changed in your lifetime, and 1 honest feeling about it. On the right is the fact sheet for the persona I will use in the answers: a candidate from Haiphong, a port city in northern Vietnam. Please be clear, those facts are the personas, not yours. Do this exercise for your own city. The technique transfers, the content does not. Brainstorm 2. Match the grammar to the question. The question is telling you which tense it wants. Where do you come from asks for present simple with 1 past detail. What is it like asks for present simple and adjectives. Has it changed asks for the present perfect against the past simple and for used to. Do you know much about it asks for hedged past tense. And will you still be living there asks for conditional and modal language. On the right are the phrases that by you range in each case. Question 1. Where do you come from? Here is the band 9 answer. I am from Haiphong. It is a port city in the north of Vietnam, about 2 hours drive east of Hanoi. I was born and raised there, and although I have moved away for work, I still think of it as home. It is probably best known for its harbor and, oddly enough, for its crab noodle soup. Notice the shape. Answer, then locate it for the examiner. Then 1 memorable detail, and that throwaway oddly enough is natural speech, not a rehearsed line. Question 2. What is the most attractive part of your hometown? For me it has to be the old French Quarter near the Opera House. The buildings are these faded ochre villas with shuttered windows, and in early summer the whole street is lined with flame trees in bloom, so it turns bright red. I never get tired of walking through it. Concrete sensory description beats abstract praise. Faded ochre, shuttered, in bloom. Precise collocation is what lifts lexical resource to 9. Question 3. What is the weather like in your hometown? It is fairly typical of northern Vietnam. Hot, humid summers and a cool, drizzly winter. What catches visitors out is the humidity in July. It can be stifling. Personally, I much prefer the autumn, when it is dry and mild and you can actually sit outside in the evening. Weather questions tempt one-word answers. This one adds a contrast and a preference, so it earns its length without padding. Question 4. Do you know much about the history of your hometown? A fair bit, though I am no historian. It grew into a major port under the French in the late 19th century, if I remember rightly, and that colonial period is still visible in the architecture. Beyond that, my grandmother's stories probably taught me more than school ever did. Hedging is a band 9 feature, not a weakness, if I remember rightly. I am no historian. Never invent hard facts under pressure, soften them instead. Question 5. Has your hometown changed much these years? Enormously. When I was a child, the outskirts were mostly rice paddies. Now they have been swallowed up by industrial parks and high-rise apartments. On the whole, it had been positive. There is far more work about, but I do miss how quiet it used to be. Has it changed? Invites past against present. Past simple, used to, and the present perfect passive, 3 tenses in 4 lines, all accurate. That is grammatical range. Question 6. Would you say your hometown is a big city or a small town? Definitely a big city. I think it is the 3rd largest in the country. That said, it does not feel overwhelming the way Hanoi or Saigon do. It has a slightly slower, more neighborly atmosphere, which is the best of both worlds really. A closed question gets a decisive answer first, then a qualification. That said, and the best of both worlds do the discuss work. Question 7. For you, what benefits are there living in a big city? The obvious one is opportunity. Better jobs, better hospitals, decent universities, all within reach. But the thing I value most is the variety. You can eat food from half a dozen countries, catch a live band, or just bump into people from completely different walks of life. Small towns cannot really offer that. Signposting a hierarchy shows control. The obvious one is, the thing I value most is, and the list of 3 keeps fluency high without repeating structures. Question 8. Do you think you will still be living in your hometown in the future? I would like to think so, though I cannot say for certain. My work is fairly mobile, so a lot depends on where that takes me over the next few years. If I am honest, my instinct is that I will end up drifting back. Most people I know eventually do. Future questions reward speculation, not prediction. I would like to think so. A lot depends on. My instinct is that. Conditional and modal range on display. Here is the full run-through in writing, questions 1 to 3, so you can pause and study the wording. Questions 4 to 6. And questions 7 and 8. Your language bank from this lesson, grouped so you can actually retrieve it. Place language, describing language, change language, hedging language, and signposting. Learn these in chunks, not as single words. Why this counts as band 9. Fluency and coherence, speaking at length without noticeable effort, where any hesitation is about content, not language. Lexical resource, precise idiomatic choices used naturally. Grammatical range and accuracy, a full range of structures, flexible and accurate. And pronunciation, effortless to follow throughout. One important caveat. This band 9 label reflects an internal quality check against the public ielts band descriptors. It is not a score awarded by a certified examiner, and remember that a real examiner marks your spoken delivery, not the words on this slide. Your turn. Build your own 5-fact sheet in 10 minutes on paper. Then record yourself answering all 8 questions with no script. Play it back and check one thing only. Did every answer have an answer, an extension, and some color? Post your answer to question 8 in the comments, because the future one is always the hardest. Thanks for watching. Be Master 79.